Hello and welcome to the Fisher Protocol, a channel dedicated to the world's greatest rock and roll band, The Who. The band is a shared passion of ours, and these discussions are more of a personal journey than a critical review. Also, no money is made from these videos, so please let us know what we're not alone in Wholand by taking a quick second to like, subscribe, and share with your Who-minded friends. Constructive feedback is always welcome, either in the comments below or on Twitter and Instagram at Fisher Protocol. My name is Ethan. Today I'm joined by Tom and Betts to discuss John Entwistle's Too Late the Hero. We do not claim to be experts, just fans of the world's greatest rock and roll band, The Who. Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey, it's going great.
It's been so long since I've spoken to you both. It's great to see you.
Yes.
So the channel here, my Olympic pin on display. We're going to talk about John Entwistle's Too Late the Hero. John Entwistle's only solo album of the 1980s. It got to number 71 in the Billboard charts. A thing I'm going to talk about a lot is, and this is, let's face it, this is mostly Betts' show. Okay, this is her jam. This is the Betts.
Oh God,
the Betts protocol. You know what I mean?
The burden.
Yeah. I just thought of the worst joke. Anyway, this has Joe Vitale on drums, Joe Walsh on guitar, and our good friend Billy Nichols on backing vocals. Tom, before we get started, what's your personal history with Too Late to Hero, the album?
I've listened to it a few times previous to this, but again, I've said this before in other podcasts that I grew up with Too Late the Hero, or not. Oh God, Left for Live.
Yeah,
that was probably some of the first John content that I had. So everything kind of is compared to that, which maybe necessarily isn't very fair, but that's where I know those songs from. When I hear these songs on this album, I think about the live version before I think about this. So that's just a hard to compare thing, but yeah, I mean, there's some definitely gems on this album.
Mine personally was big on Too Late the Hero, the song. Very much a song that I very much remember hearing in my Halcyon Who days and just being kind of enamored with it. Yeah, I mean, I really love the song Too Late the Hero. I didn't listen to the album that much. Of course, I heard Dancing Master and a couple other things. This is the first time I gave multiple listens in a row. Yeah, Betts, what's your...
I had it. I ran out the day it came out.
Yeah.
And with my quarters and rolls of pennies and everything, threw them on the counter at Mother's Records, and I had a copy of it, and I played the hell out of it. It got a significant amount of radio play on my local station, which would have been WDIZ. I know it didn't chart, like I said, it was like 71 or something like that, but like I said, it Talk Dirty, Too Late the Hero, and Lovebird, I recall them being played a fairly lot on the radio. Our local DJ, his name was Mike Lyons. He was a fantastic human being, and he was a big Who fan. So I have a feeling his influence had a lot to do with it. When John did radio station identification for the radio station too.
Nice.
Yeah. So I loved this record when it came out, and I was very pleased to own a copy of it.
Okay, so I did find this quote, and it's basically just from Wikipedia. And you might bring this up later, but John said, because the lyrical content changed quite a bit on this record from what he was trying to do normally.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a quote that was on Wikipedia. Until about 2 years ago, I tried to stay away from certain subjects. I was getting a feeling from everyone, from the fans right through to my wife and family, that if you write about hookers, you must go to hookers. If you write about drugs, you must take drugs. I got this reputation for sinister black humor after things like Whistle Rhymes. And I was getting up at 6 a.m. to feed my son Christopher, and then sitting down at a piano at 7 to write songs about peeping toms and suicide cases.
AKA Whistle Rhymes.
Right. And the biggest thing for me is how much I couldn't get away from and overall I like the album, how much Eagles there is in there, how much, and it makes me really reevaluate how much Joe Walsh there is in Eagles stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it starts off with "Try Me." It's a good album opener. You know what I mean? I love the bridge. I know what it's like to smoke my breakfast again. You know what I mean? So that's what about "Try Me"?
It reminds me, when I first listened to it again after all these years, that famous Machine Gun Kelly thing about "I am the weed." It's kind of like that. He's talking about somebody who's obviously like on drugs, and he's like, "Well, don't do drugs. Try me."
Right.
And I keep thinking that if this had been Whistle Rhymes era, it would have been like, "Oh, you're doing all these drugs. Too bad, you're gonna die." So this record, and I'll start off here by saying, when I heard this record the first time, I remember thinking, he's going commercial, folks. That this was a real stab at being more conventional. And so it's a love song in a way, and which was something he didn't do before, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But this is a very positive song, and again, very conventional, and it sounds very conventional, and the lyrical content is rather conventional, which is a big departure from his previous stuff.
Yeah, if there's one thing I was going to say about this album, I agree. That's kind of what I was thinking too, is just, it's not as quirky, weird John as it used to be. This is like, hey, big boy, I can make, I can hang with these guys too.
Yeah.
If I wanted to. I don't have to. I mean, he knew how good he was. He didn't have to, but
yeah,
I agree. Yeah, definitely right out the gate, you realize this is a different album.
It was made for album-oriented rock radio. It really was. I mean, yeah. And at the time, I even thought, wow, he's going mainstream, folks.
I did read the 2 pages in the John Entwistle biography that came out that talked about, and it was Joe Walsh talking about the scheduling for this album, like, how they went,
Yeah.
They woke up at some point, John showed up looking perfect. They went to the studio. They went to get hamburgers.
That's what he wanted.
And when they tell these stories, they always skip over the part I want to hear. Tell me about what happened in the studio, but they don't do that. And they said they would go out all night. Yeah. Bets.
We'll talk about that in a second. There's an earlier session that I want to talk about a little bit later, where they do talk about how those things were made. So
okay, great. Talk Dirty is a great bass track. Bets.
Well, 17-year-old Bets was not ready for this one. She was pretty scandalized. Sexually Charged John Entwistle was not on my 1981 bingo card, that's for sure. It is, it's really super clever. The wordplay is very clever. That opening with let's stay inside her. It was just like, oh no. But the idea is that we're stuck inside. What do you want to do? And whoever he's talking to is like, well, let's talk about politics, let's talk about this and that. And he's just being horny ass John Entwistle. That's the song.
Thirsty.
Tom?
I love the bass on this song. That is like bass guitar at its finest. Just a great song. I love it. It's clever. It's funny. It's very John Entwistle. Just across the board. Without it being too quirky or goofy or I think it embodies who he is. Like, I get that. Yeah.
I like it. It's kind of like what I want out of a John Entwistle record, and it has the bass harmonics really stood out, especially on the chorus. Lyrically, it's a little bicycle race. It's a little jamming me. It's a little, I see it, I'm gonna write it down kind of thing, because I'm smart and I can write lyrics at one time, kind of thing. Which is jealousy talking. I wish I could do that, but I like it. I don't have much to say about Lovebird. It was okay for me. Bets, what do you think?
This was one of those that teenage Bets really, really loved. Interestingly, this is a sad song, and I'm going to go back just a little bit and say this was a guy who made it a point for a long time to joke about how he couldn't write a love song or didn't have any interest in writing a love song. If you go back to Smash Your Head And there's a outtake called "It's Hard to Write a Love Song," and it was all about I can't write a love song. And then on Mad Dog there was "Drowning," which is the final song, and he talks about in the chorus of that, like, this is my first love song. It's going to be my last. I'm never going to do it again. I can't do it, you know. And so this was like a big joke with him. I don't write love songs. I can't do it. And then throws a love song onto this record. And it's a real legitimate, with feeling, regret song. This would have been on the 1979 sessions that I want to talk about in a little bit. Because he and Joe Walsh kind of hammered this thing out. And there's honestly, if you put it into the context of his personal life, there's a couple of songs on this record that reflect kind of what's happening in his real life. In '79, he met a young lady in California, fell in love, pursued her relentlessly, and the problem was that he was still married.
Yeah.
And he still loved his wife, and it was a real situation for him. And I get the feeling that this is very reflective of what was happening there. It's a heavy song. It's a beautiful song. I love it.
Okay. That's interesting. I don't know where you're reading all this extra stuff. That's not in the book, is it? Because I read the book.
Bet's got connections.
Yeah,
I do.
No. You know, people that follow someone for a long time, they have extra information that that people looking back on the internet aren't going to have. So
Yeah.
I think the West Wing calls that institutional memory. Maybe. Okay.
It's a solid song. I like it. I mean, for John to write a love song is good, and I imagine that's like, you know, stepping in front of a crowd naked. You know, you just really got to be confident that you're going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
That's definitely not his. You know, I imagine he handles stressful situations with humor and dark humor more than you know, being confident and sensitive.
Yeah.
And, you know, do you think he had to fight those urges just to, like, maybe a really easy word structure came to him about the things he was trying not to write about, you know?
Yeah.
And he has to, like, erase it, go back, like, no, this is rough, you know?
Yeah. It's a really different song. And again, that was my impression when I had the album in '81, is that, oh, like I say, he's going commercial. He's writing a love song, folks. It's, you know,
Well,
and
it's really rough
a
to think
conventional love
about
song.
how much we like this album and how much
Yeah.
there wasn't another one in the 80s for him.
Yeah, things I think would have turned out immensely different for him if this record had been a hit.
Right.
It should have been a hit. It really should have.
Sleeping Man, it's really, the groove is really good and it has really good production. And, you know, I have to go off about the Walsh Eagles thing. I'm going to do it on a later song because there's so much there. But, you know, it all smacks of, you know, to me, there's a lot of eagleness in this album.
Oh yeah.
That's just because if I don't know if Joe Walsh is there, do I hear that if I know for a fact Joe Walsh is not there? I don't know if that's in my brain too. But I mean, it's kind of everywhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah.
I agree. I didn't know Joe Walsh was on the album before I listened to it again. With some of these more obscure things, I'd rather listen to it blind and then have that. I don't know if I would have said Eagles or if that was the first word that came to my head, but it was definitely a very distinctive sound. And then after listening to it and looking it up, yeah, I get it.
And, you know, before you tell us about Sleeping Man Bets, I don't know if you can tell us, like, Cy Langston, the quote unquote producer, he's also like John's body man, for better term, you know,
Yeah.
for the longest time. Did he have lots of, like, credits for producing before this? Do you know anything about that?
That's a good question. I know that he had a musical background. He was his band was Cyrano, and I forget the language, but I don't really know a lot about this, and I'm surprised that John wouldn't have produced it, because he was producing a bunch of things back then. The Kids Are All Right soundtrack, the Quadrophenia soundtrack, and that kind of thing. So I'm not sure how much about Psy's previous, musical forays, if this was his first or if he ever went on to do anything else.
What about Sleepy
It's about Bobby Pridden, who's longtime sound guy. Yeah, I guess Bobby was a sleepy guy. I know that when they had that almost fatal air crash in Nashville, and they were like, "We're going down," and back in the '60s, and they woke Bobby up to tell him, and Bobby's like, "Why are you waking me up to tell me we're going to die?" But it is about Bobby Pridden. It's a real catchy song. I woke up this morning with it in my head, and there's a nice big buzzy bass to it, which I like too. So it's really cute, and it's dare I say charming, very charming song.
The slide guitar of Joe Walsh really comes through, and I'm coming back. Yep. And that's the thing. We just did McVicker, and people are gonna hate on me. Like, some things on McVicker really stuck out and punched in a hooky way. And that was a bit fewer on this album for me. Even though I think I like it more.
Yeah.
Especially from what I want to hear more of John, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I just picked out the slide guitar on this song, and I didn't even really listen to the lyrics, unfortunately. What's it about?
I'm the same boat as you, and I've never been a big lyrics guy. And there's Who songs that I've listened to a million times, and I couldn't. You would assume that I could quote them word for word, and I cannot. So, and this is definitely one of those types of songs where it's like, oh yeah, I'm listening to the guitar, listen to the bass, listen to this, and it's like they sang, but I have no idea what the hell he said.
Yeah.
So sorry for lameness on this track. That's what you got on it.
It's a road song.
Okay.
And it's all about, I like California. I'm going to California. Woo! And then it's like, okay, I'm done with California. Now I'm going to London. Woo! I don't know if California was such a good influence on the Who boys, but there you go. We have Exquisitely Bored by Pete. We have All of Two Sides of the Moon by Keith. But yeah, this is John being bi-coastal as hell. It is or bicontinental. It is real reminiscent for me of his tracks on It's Hard and Face Dances. It's what every critic would probably call a driver. And I went back and actually a while back looked at like actual contemporaneous reviews of It's Hard and Face Dances, and every critic singles out John's contributions to those records as being the high point of them, which I think is really interesting. And my boy was like really bringing the rock, and coming at rock and roll is almost from a heavy metal. I wouldn't say metal because he didn't like metal that much, but coming at it really hard, whereas Pete was coming at rock almost with a pop sensibility at this point. So, but John's tracks on those records, the critics at the time really, really liked them. And so these were closer to the Who that they were used to than what Pete was kind of evolving and doing.
Like The Quiet One at a Time, and things like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Real quick. Dave Cyrano Langston, British rock producer and engineer, died 2021.
Yeah.
Nicknamed Cyrano, associated with The Who, initially hired as a chauffeur, but left the band Cyrano and the Bergeracs to become The Who's first roadie, later known as Cy Langston, longtime production assistant for The Who, as well as working with other bands. He is credited for the co-writer of the song Early Morning Cold Taxi.
Yeah.
Roger Daltrey. Cy has all my respect for his role in the band. I just wanted to make that clear before he
yes,
forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So why are we here? We're here because we love John Entwistle. Why do we love John Entwistle? Not because of his personality, of course. He has a charming personality, but because he plays the bass. He plays the bass better than anyone I've ever heard. Whether your name is Waters or McCartney or whatever, he's a better bass player, and that's just a fact of life. For
bass player of the millennium.
Player of the millennium.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
And magazine lists are always right. No. So what do we want? We want Dancing Master more than anything. Tom, do you like it?
All for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just turn it up. I'm all good for it. John Entwistle all the way.
Bets, I love this song. Do you like this song?
Okay, so For me, I love the instrumentation. It's fantastic. You get to hear him sort of go off, which is always fun. It's not my favorite song on the album, and I'm going to say why. This is 1981, and so I'm going back to my feelings at the time. It's an anti-disco song when disco was pretty well dead at this point. And this is where I'll talk about the 79 sessions. John got together with Joe Walsh in 79 after doing The Kids Are All Right and Quadrophenia soundtracks, and he was working in California on those, and they were kind of a bummer to work on in a lot of ways. He was trying to overdub Keith on some stuff, and Keith just wasn't able to, 32-year-old Keith couldn't keep up with 22-year-old Keith, and there was a lot of drama going on and that kind of thing. And so he sort of broke off, and he was like, he called Joe, who was his buddy from the early 70s, and they were like, let's just go into the studio, let's blow the dust off my solo career, and let's do some stuff. And they did some sessions in 79. Walsh talks about that they just walked in, John brought a few songs, and they like improvised. And he said it was almost a jazz sensibility. In 79, Dancing Master is one of these songs. And in 79, disco's still a thing. So the parodying of disco here, disco there, all that works in 79. And it's a real raw sound. In fact, if you can find these sessions, our buddy Oxfan on YouTube has that record on here. It's about 5 songs, I believe. 2 of them are not on Too Late the Hero. They're great. Like I said, they're raw, they're improvised, and they're a little better than on Too Late the Hero, to be honest with you.
Oh, that's cool. I'll check them out. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely do, because they are a revelation. This song, like I said, with all the instrumentation and the playing in it, it's great, but the song just didn't kind of work for me because it just felt dated. I don't know. That's me.
Well, it's no Disco Duck. Right? Better than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Or Miss You. It's better than Miss You. Anyway, you heard me. That's right. I said it. Miss You. Anyway.
That's the whole. That's my whole reason why I'm Disco Remix on Twitter. Right?
Oh, because of that song? Because of Miss
You?
You?
Because Miss You it was a disco remix, and I was like, oh, it could be Disco Remix.
Yeah.
There's the backstory for Disco Remix.
I have a house version of that, so on white label vinyl. That's right.
Yeah. Interestingly, the Stones and Kiss all did disco songs. The Who didn't. I find that interesting.
That's right.
Thank God.
And the thing is, growing up with disco and living after disco, being born after disco is a totally different thing. Because I grew up loving the Bee Gees just as much as the rock stuff I was listening to. Yeah. So I mean, I love all that dance stuff. And I see why doing it, but because it just gives him an excuse to go crazy on the bass, which is what I like.
Exactly.
Exactly. I like it. Fallen Angel almost started off a little 50s-ish to me, almost. It doesn't stay there. Almost like what people in the 70s would consider the 50s, like a Grease sound almost at the beginning. Mm-hmm. Fallen Angel. Tom, you got anything on it?
Didn't do anything for me. Yeah, just it seemed out of place for the album, or I don't know, it didn't do it for me. Wasn't my favorite for sure.
It's a weaker track, and it's a sentiment that everybody's done. You're on top, and now you're on the bottom. It brings to mind John Lennon's "Nobody Loves You." Is it "Nobody Loves You When You're Dead" off Walls and Bridges, which I think was a better song for attacking that, or for talking about that kind of thing. It's not my favorite song on this record at all.
Okay. I like it when I feel the same way about a song, then you guys tell me you feel the same way about a song, because it makes me not crazy.
Yeah.
I disagree. Yeah. I don't like it, but that's the way it is. Love Is a Heart Attack. This is where I want to talk about the Eagles, because this is a great song.
It is.
But every time I hear it, I think it's Those Shoes by the Eagles.
Yeah.
It sounds just like it. I feel Don Felder in the room. I don't feel Don Henley in the room because that's a whole other thing. But I felt Felder in the room. I feel the drums in the room. I feel the production of the Eagles on this song, on the long run stuff. I really do. That's why I wanted to know about Psy, because the production is so good.
Yeah.
So Bill, I think his name's Simzik.
Yeah.
Eagles, which is also like It's Hard or Face Dance.
No, it's Face Dances.
Face
Dances.
Dances.
Yeah.
You can really hear that in this song. You can, more than any other song. This is where the Eagles and the Joe Walsh, and this has more old school type Entwistle lyrics as well.
Yeah. Very much. It could be on Whistle Rhymes. It definitely could be.
The long run came out in 1979. So if you want to talk about timing, it's
yeah, I thought about that too. Yeah. Sure. But this is obviously a record company produced record, right? So, they're paying for Joe Walsh to fly out. They're paying for Joe Vitale to come out. So, and production styles always follow, each other around the same time.
And interestingly enough, I want to say, and I don't, this is something from the institutional memory of that's Crockett, that John may have been instrumental in bringing Bill Sisnick into the Face Dances production, but then his biggest objection to Face Dances was the production. And my understanding is those two did not get along, that they butted heads about how John was playing and that kind of thing and how the production was going.
Okay.
So, something interesting.
Might have to do a Face Dances video. No, I'm not doing it. Okay. All right, the last one is a big one for me. It's Too Late. Oh, yep, nope.
I just want one quick thing. I do want to say about Love Is a Heart Attack. You know, it's based on a joke, right?
No.
Okay. John heard a joke. It's kind of a dad joke. It's kind of a dirty joke, but it basically was guy goes to his doctor. Doctor says you can't have sex anymore. So if you do, you're going to die. So he decides to move downstairs and sleep downstairs, and his wife stays upstairs. And then one night he just can't take it anymore. So he goes up the stairs and he meets his wife halfway down, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm going to go upstairs and I've decided to do myself in." And she's like, "Well, that's cool, because I came downstairs to murder you." So that's the story about that song. It's old dad jokes.
Dad jokes or rad jokes?
Yes.
He's there, Dad.
Yeah. I wanted to throw that out there, that was the reason why he song. I thought it was cute.
But on this song, the lyrics, he definitely
they're ironic. Yeah.
He threw out his mandate for this album, kind of, right? So
yeah.
The song Too Late to Hear is a big one for me, simply because in my Who glory days, it was the biggest Entwistle song that I had listened to a lot. It's big, it's sprawling. I guarantee you if I heard it today, I would hate it. I guarantee you if that song was presented to me as I am now, I wouldn't like it. It would be too long and pretentious for me now. But because I heard it when I heard it, and I saw John Entwistle do it live, I love the song unironically, you know what I mean? But I don't think the me of today would be into it if I heard it for the first time. So that's me.
Yeah, I've only got the again, I've referenced everything to that live album, Left for Live, and studio version. It seems even more like just kind of molassesy, just stretching it out, like just not slow, but just it takes a little while to get going. But yeah, I mean, if I got to listen to one version, it's the live version all day long. But it's a good song, though. I mean, without judging one, studio or live, it's still a good song. It just if somebody didn't like it on the studio album, I'd definitely refer them to the live album and see if it felt a little better that way.
And before I let Bets go on it, it's the lyrics are really deep, and they have really deep meaning as far as him seeing himself. Everyone sees themselves in their own movie, right? So I mean, I definitely got that almost some if you could read my mind kind of things going on here. So
yeah,
that's
Well, let me just get weird about this one because
Yeah, weird.
I love this song. And I want to say Sunday, I must have played it like 10 times. It makes me sad in a way. It's not on the 79 sessions. I'm not sure exactly when it was written, but again, putting it into the context of what was happening in his life at this time. The Who is coming apart. In 78, he loses Keith, who is like, he described him as, this was my brother, and he loses him. 79, Cincinnati. His marriage is in shambles. Everything is coming apart for him. And I have to think that this song was written at that time. And when you think about what's going on in his personal life and you hear this song, it is deeply, deeply sad. And it is sort of like, real life is hard. Movies are so much easier to live in a movie because you know who the bad guys are, you know who the good guys are, you know it's going to have a happy ending, and life isn't like that. And that's what this song is about, and it's amazingly profound for what he had done previously. Songs about spiders and songs about jumping off a building and this kind of thing. And this was very different. It makes me really sad, and it makes me, I don't know, like I said, I feel like this was him at profundity. I know it moves slow, and I know it's a little lugubrious, kind of mashed down with a bunch of synthesizers and things like that, but the lyrics still come through. And the whole ending, I am the hero. I'm going to rescue the princess, and I'm going to do this and that. And it's nothing really. That's cute, and that's kind of like saying, okay, all this sad, melancholy stuff that you heard at the beginning, it's okay. It's okay. There's a happy ending at this. This song it really affects me, and I love it. There is a video. It's kind of an artifact. Early 80s kind of, John does a lot of standing while they project old movies onto his back and his massive forehead and things like that.
I've seen that video.
Yeah, it's if you want to, I don't know, if you want to go see it, it's 1981 video technology. But the song itself, I have to say, is again one of my favorite songs. Just like we talked about, what are we doing here? This is one of those moments where you get a glimpse into what's really going on with him. And like, what are we doing here? It's sad,
Well, yeah, it's sad. And it's also like, you can tell the other songs, he just either wrote lyrics, whether they be commercial or on or whatever. And this one actually, scratches some surface and gets deep into some things.
It's deeply affecting.
And it showcases his voice.
Yeah. Which
even at this time was still there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when I started reading set lists a long time ago from the 1989 tour, and it's this 3-hour massive show, like, I can't believe in the middle of it they did Too Late the Hero.
Yeah.
Like, it just seems like it seems out of place. He did that tour called The Best, or is it
with Jeff Skunk Baxter and was it Carmen Appice, or was that Ringo's?
I don't remember, but it's all these people, the best, quote unquote, all-star band kind of vibe, and they did it there, and that version's really good.
Yeah,
online on YouTube.
Yeah,
really good.
I will say around the same era, Ringo. Speaking of Ringo, did an album called Old Way.
Yeah, and
there is a song. Good Lord, what is it called?
I just read about it today. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Clapton's on it too, but definitely check it out. Same era. I think it's called like Everybody's in a Hurry But Me.
Okay.
That's what it's called. And John is just tearing it up. So definitely check out that song as well. And the 79 sessions, highly, highly recommend.
You're gonna need to link me that so I can maybe put it in the show notes or something.
Absolutely, because like I said, yes, our buddy Ox fan.
Yeah.
Keeping the dream alive.
Thank you for all these people keeping the dream alive. There's
exactly.
There's Clue Boots, there's Ox fan, whoever is uploading these shows, just keep it coming. It's great.
Exactly.
So that's 2 thumbs up for me for Too Late to Hero. I like it. You know what I mean? I would keep it. I liked it better than
Not Whistle Rhymes.
What's the one with the coffin on the cover?
Rigor Mortis.
Yeah, I liked it better than Rigor Mortis.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah, but that's me. Tom, overall, you like it?
Yeah, good album. Liked it a lot. I hadn't spent that much time with it, so then to hear some of those middle songs that I hadn't heard before was good. It filled in a hole for me, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it. And thank you for watching. See you guys later.
Thanks.
Love out of your life, the best maker to a boogie.